You wouldn't sign a 30-year mortgage without reading the fine print, right?
No, definitely not.
But every single week, we fill our grocery carts with these legally binding, highly processed contracts, and most of us have absolutely no idea what we are actually signing up for.
Yeah, I mean, it's a system built entirely on the assumption that you are going to just skim the bold text on the front and ignore the reality printed in tiny letters on the back.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are so thrilled you are joining us. Today, our mission is to decode this intentional deception, hiding in plain sight on our food labels.
Right, and to do that, we are using a really comprehensive guide developed by human biologist Gary Brecka.
Which is fascinating, by the way. This guide identifies 4 specific, highly toxic, incredibly common ingredients that are just hiding in the everyday foods we eat.
They are everywhere. But we aren't stopping there. We're also going to break down a couple of highly efficient physiological tools that this guide recommends for actually repairing the bodily damage those ingredients cause.
Right. But the foundational issue we really have to understand before we look at specific ingredients is a marketing tactic called the category summary.
Yes, the food industry has absolutely mastered this.
I think we've all fallen for this at some point. A category summary is basically when a manufacturer slaps a broad, wholesome-sounding phrase like, all natural or farm fresh or heart healthy right on the front of the box.
Right, and the whole point of that phrase is just to distract you from turning the box around to look at the highly processed, multisyllabic chemical names on the actual ingredient list.
Exactly. They are essentially using a halo effect. If a product claims it provides, like natural energy, you are far less likely to question the synthetic preservatives or the chemically altered sweeteners hiding inside.
It is a brilliant misdirection.
It really is. But I want to be super clear with you listening right now. Our goal today is not to make you terrified of your pantry.
No, not at all.
We are not asking you to throw out everything in your kitchen or double your grocery budget by only shopping at high-end health food stores.
Because that approach just isn't sustainable for most people. True empowerment comes from simply knowing the aliases these ingredients use.
Right. Once you are aware of their hiding spots, you can make informed, practical choices that protect your health. And you can do it without sacrificing the foods you actually enjoy or breaking the bank.
So let's start with how the food industry masks sweetness.
Yeah, we'll begin here because manipulating sweetness is exactly how manufacturers trick both the label reader and human metabolism at the exact same time.
Which brings us to the very first ingredient in this guide's no-fly zone, which is high fructose corn syrup.
It is practically inescapable in modern processed foods.
Right.
But you rarely see the words high fructose corn syrup printed clearly anymore.
Right. Consumers got wise to that specific phrase, so the industry just adapted.
They gave it a rebrand. You'll now see it hiding under aliases like all natural sugars or corn sugar, or even natural fructose flavoring.
Yep. They make it sound completely harmless.
Now, I have to push back a little here because I know what a lot of people are wondering. I mean, fructose is fruit sugar.
Sure.
If you eat a peach or a handful of strawberries, you are eating fructose. So why is high fructose corn syrup suddenly public enemy number 1? What makes it so dangerous compared to just eating a piece of fruit?
Well, it is a critical distinction to make. The high fructose corn syrup pumped into processed foods is emphatically not the same as the fructose bound up with fiber in your peach.
Okay, how so?
It has been chemically altered and concentrated to levels you would never, ever find in nature. And this concentration fundamentally breaks your body's energy gating system.
Energy gating system.
Yeah. Unlike glucose, which is just standard sugar, this highly concentrated fructose does not stimulate insulin secretion.
Wait, really? So the sugar enters your bloodstream, but your body doesn't release the hormone designed to process sugar?
Correct. It completely bypasses that normal metabolic trigger. And because it doesn't trigger insulin, it also fails to impact leptin production. And leptin is arguably one of the most important hormones in your body. It acts as your physiological fuel gauge.
Okay, so leptin is the chemical messenger that travels to your brain and says, hey, we have taken in enough energy, you are full, you can stop eating now.
Exactly. That's the one.
I see where this is going. If this concentrated syrup doesn't trigger insulin, and therefore doesn't trigger leptin, your brain is completely blind to the fact that you just consumed hundreds of calories.
You've disabled the body's internal stop switch. You can drink a massive soda loaded with this syrup, and your brain will still literally think you are starving.
That is insane. It leads directly to massive caloric overconsumption.
It does. But the damage doesn't stop at your appetite.
Mhm.
Because the fructose bypassed the normal insulin pathway, it all rushes directly to your liver.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, the liver gets overwhelmed by this sudden massive influx of energy
Yeah.
and immediately converts that fructose into triglycerides, which, are a type of fat circulating in your blood.
Right.
And it does this far more rapidly than it would with any other type of sugar.
So to break that down for you listening, eating a snack loaded with high fructose corn syrup means you are actively tricking your brain into keeping you hungry
Yep.
while simultaneously putting your liver on an assembly line to pump out blood fat,
It is a meticulously engineered metabolic trap.
which makes total sense why it's on the no-fly list.
Oh.
But speaking of engineered sweetness, we have to look at the other side of the coin. What about the people who are actively trying to avoid sugar altogether?
Ah, the diet crowd.
Right. That brings us to ingredient number 2, aspartame.
Yeah, despite being an artificial sweetener that has generated controversy for decades, aspartame is still a cornerstone ingredient in thousands of low-calorie and diet products.
It really is. To understand the physiological threat here, the guide pulls from 2 distinct 2018 peer-reviewed studies, one from the Journal of Nutritional Science and another from the Journal of Clinical Nutrition.
And these studies detail a really alarming neurological mechanism.
Okay, before we get into the results, let me make sure I'm visualizing the process correctly. I drink a diet soda, it hits my gut, and the
Okay.
studies say the aspartame is hydrolyzed.
Right.
That just means the water in my digestive tract is breaking the chemical down.
Yes, exactly. Hydrolysis breaks the aspartame molecule apart, and in doing so, it releases specific metabolites into your system.
Okay.
What the research shows is that this process artificially and drastically elevates the levels of 2 specific amino acids in your brain, phenylalanine and aspartic acid.
Now hold on. We are usually told amino acids are the good guys,
Yeah.
right? They're the building blocks of protein.
Usually, yes.
So why is a sudden spike in these 2 specific amino acids a problem?
Because it's an unnatural spike that throws off the delicate chemical balance of your brain. In these altered elevated concentrations, phenylalanine and aspartic acid effectively block the synthesis and release of your brain's most crucial neurotransmitters.
Which ones?
They actively inhibit dopamine, norepinephrine, and serotonin.
Okay, that is terrifying. Dopamine and serotonin are our primary mood stabilizers. They regulate our motivation, our feelings of happiness, and our sleep cycles.
Exactly.
So this artificial sweetener is chemically blocking the brain from producing the very molecules that keep a human being feeling balanced and sane.
That is exactly what the clinical data demonstrates. This neurotransmitter inhibition directly translates into severe, real-world neurophysiologic symptoms.
Like what?
Well, the documentation links this specific chemical disruption to learning problems, migraines, seizures, severe anxiety, depression, and insomnia.
Wow. It's just wild to think about the trade-off there. You might choose a diet soda to save yourself, 150 calories at lunch?
Right.
And in exchange, you are chemically inducing anxiety and suppressing your ability to sleep that night because you've tanked your serotonin.
It perfectly illustrates why looking solely at macronutrients like carbs, fats, and proteins is a flawed approach to health. We really have to examine the chemical cascade an ingredient sets off inside the body.
Yeah, the research here leaves no room for ambiguity. Aspartame causes targeted neurological disruption and should just be removed from the diet entirely.
Absolutely.
So we've seen how companies use artificial sweetness to trick your brain chemistry. But when you move over to the deli aisle, the trickery changes from sweet to savory.
Yes, the goal shifts from cutting calories to artificially extending shelf life.
Exactly. Let's look at how they preserve meats, which brings us to ingredient number 3, sodium nitrates.
This is a classic example of phonetic confusion playing right into the hands of food manufacturers.
Oh, for sure. Consumers look at a package of deli meat or bacon. They see the word sodium nitrate, and their brain automatically equates it with sodium chloride.
Right, because sodium chloride is just standard, everyday table salt.
So you read the label and assume, oh, they just use some salt to cure the meat. No big deal.
But they are entirely different compounds. Sodium nitrates are highly synthetic preservatives, and the biological concern here isn't just a mild health warning.
No, it's not.
Yeah. The World Cancer Research Center concluded that sodium nitrates are not safe for human consumption at any level.
That is a staggering statement from a major research body. Not eat in moderation, not reduce your intake, zero tolerance.
Zero.
Why is it so destructive?
The danger occurs when these synthetic nitrates undergo a chemical reaction. When sodium nitrates hit the highly acidic environment of your stomach, or when they are subjected to high heat, cooking like, frying bacon in a pan, they undergo a transformation.
Okay, what do they turn into?
They bind with amines in the meat to form compounds called nitrosamines, and nitrosamines are highly documented potent carcinogens.
Let me get this straight. The act of digesting the preservative, or just cooking the food the way it's actually meant to be cooked, chemically transforms it into a cancer-causing agent.
Yes, it's the chemical reaction itself that is the problem.
That is definitely actionable information for you listening. And the good news is you don't have to banish bacon or turkey from your life entirely.
No, you just have to become a keyword detective.
Right. You are looking for packages that explicitly state grass-fed, uncured, free-range, or specifically nitrate-free. The guide points out that almost all standard grocery stores carry these safe versions now.
It just takes a moment of vigilance to find them, which leads us to the fourth ingredient. And this is arguably the most egregious example of regulatory manipulation in the entire food industry.
Oh, this one makes me so mad. We're talking about hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated oils.
This one is incredibly frustrating because the deception is completely legal. According to food labeling laws, a manufacturer is not required to list trans fats on the nutrition panel if there is less than half a gram per serving.
Let that sink in. A manufacturer can boldly print 0 trans fats on the front of the packaging, while the food inside actively contains trans fats.
It's an absurd loophole.
It's like a resort advertising a swimming pool, but claiming the pool has 0 water in it simply because the water level sits an inch below some arbitrary line painted on the wall.
That is a very apt way to look at it.
The hazard is still there. If I jump in, the fact that the water is technically below a regulatory line doesn't mean I'm not going to get wet. But the industry just legally ignores the hazard.
Exactly. And to exploit this loophole, manufacturers will artificially shrink the serving size on the back of the box to a comically small portion.
Right, like saying a serving of chips is 3 chips.
Yes. They keep shrinking the portion size until the trans fat calculation falls just below that 0.5 gram threshold, allowing them to declare it trans fat-free.
So if the big bold numbers on the nutrition panel are essentially a legally sanctioned lie, what do we actually do?
You have to bypass the marketing and the primary nutrition facts panel entirely. You go straight down to the tiny print ingredient list.
And you are scanning specifically for the words hydrogenated or partially hydrogenated attached to any oil.
Because biologically, what makes a hydrogenated oil so catastrophic for us comes down to cellular structure.
Okay, break that down for us.
Well, these are artificially engineered fats. Manufacturers take liquid vegetable oil and literally pump hydrogen gas molecules into it under high pressure.
So they're forcing gas into it.
Right. This straightens out the lipid molecules, turning a liquid oil into a solid fat at room temperature.
Which is great for keeping a snack cake shelf stable for 2 years.
It is, but when you eat it, your body takes those stiff, unnatural trans fats and incorporates them into your own cell membranes.
It literally builds your cells out of this stuff.
It does. It makes your cells rigid. The guide highlights that this drastically increases systemic, body-wide inflammation.
That is awful.
And it actively lowers your HDL, your good cholesterol, while simultaneously spiking your LDL, the bad cholesterol.
It is a wrecking ball for your cardiovascular system. Okay, let's take a breath. We've spent a lot of time on the defensive side of the ball, outlining what this biological guide insists we must remove. High fructose corn syrup, aspartame, sodium nitrates, and hydrogenated oils.
Yes, that's the removal phase.
Let's pivot to the proactive side. If our gut and our metabolism have taken a beating from these ingredients, what are the tools recommended to repair that damage and optimize our physiology?
The focus here shifts to maximizing cellular efficiency and absorption. And the first optimization tool the guide highlights is hydrogen water.
I have to admit, when I first read hydrogen water, I was incredibly skeptical. It sounds like a redundant science fiction term. I mean, water is literally H2O. It already has hydrogen in it.
That is the most common initial reaction, and it's a completely fair question. But the terminology is referring to 2 completely different states of hydrogen.
Okay.
We aren't talking about the hydrogen atoms permanently bound to an oxygen atom to create a liquid water molecule.
Okay.
This protocol involves using a portable generator. The guide specifically notes a device called the Echo H2O+ to dissolve free molecular hydrogen gas directly into the water you are drinking.
So it's essentially infusing the water with an unattached free-floating gas. Why does our body even want that?
Because of its physical size. Molecular hydrogen is the smallest molecule in the known universe.
Wow.
Because it is so microscopic, it doesn't require any complex transport mechanisms to get into your system. When you drink it, it easily diffuses straight through your cell membranes, passing directly into the mitochondria and even the nucleus of the cell.
So it's the ultimate biological delivery system. It can go anywhere it wants.
Exactly. And once inside the cell, it acts as a highly selective antioxidant, neutralizing damaging free radicals without disrupting normal metabolic functions.
That is really cool.
The clinical benefits outlined in the documentation are fascinating. Drinking this high parts per million hydrogen water significantly lowers whole body inflammation.
Which we just talked about being a huge problem.
Right. It also balances stomach acid levels, optimizing the initial stages of digestion. Furthermore, it actively feeds an entire class of essential beneficial bacteria in your gut microbiome.
The guide also emphasizes that because it optimizes the gut environment so thoroughly, it dramatically improves your absorption rate.
Yeah.
So if you are spending good money on high-quality organic food or expensive vitamins, drinking hydrogen water essentially guarantees your body is actually utilizing those nutrients rather than just passing them through as expensive waste.
It prepares the physiological soil, so to speak, to receive and utilize nutrients at maximum efficiency.
So if your gut is now primed to absorb nutrients perfectly, what is the optimal nutrient to give it for structural repair?
That brings us to the second optimization tool the source provides: full-spectrum essential amino acids.
Let's talk about protein because this runs counter to a lot of standard fitness advice. The usual routine is, you go to the gym, you tear your muscle fibers, and then you immediately chug a massive shaker bottle full of whey protein powder to rebuild them.
Yep, that's the classic routine.
Why shouldn't someone just rely on standard whey
Yeah.
to get their amino acids? Why do we need a specialized formula?
It all comes down to bioavailability, and the guide highlights a truly staggering statistic regarding how our bodies process traditional protein.
Okay, hit me.
We assume that if we drink 30 grams of whey protein, our muscles get 30 grams of structural building blocks. But whey protein consists of complex, tightly bound peptide chains.
Right.
Your body has to expend massive amounts of digestive energy trying to break those chains apart to get to the usable amino acids.
And I assume it's not a perfectly efficient process.
Far from it. According to the research highlighted in the guide, traditional protein sources like whey can be as little as 20% absorbable by the body.
Wait, 20%?
Yes.
So if I take a giant scoop of standard protein powder, my body is fundamentally discarding 80% of it. My digestive system is working overtime just to throw away most of what I paid for.
Yes. And it doesn't just vanish. That unabsorbed 80% is converted into nitrogen waste.
Oh, man.
Processing and eliminating all that nitrogen waste puts a heavy, unnecessary burden on your kidneys and your liver. It causes bloating and sluggishness.
I think anyone who drinks a lot of protein shakes knows that feeling.
In stark contrast, the protocol recommends utilizing specially formulated, free-form essential amino acids. It specifically points to a product called Perfect Amino.
What makes free-form amino acids different from the whey?
Because they are already broken down into their base components and precisely calibrated to the exact ratio of essential amino acids the human body requires, they require almost zero digestive effort.
So your body just soaks them up.
Exactly. The guide notes they are 99% absorbable. They bypass the digestive burden entirely and enter your bloodstream within 20 minutes.
So nearly every single gram you consume is actively utilized to build lean muscle, repair organ tissue, and generate enzymes.
Yes.
And because your digestive system doesn't have to fire up to break it down, there is an incredible secondary benefit for anyone who practices intermittent fasting.
Oh, absolutely. The caloric load is virtually non-existent.
Right. The guide notes it's roughly 2 calories per serving. You can take this highly absorbable building block right before a morning workout. You get all the structural repair you need, but it will not break your fasted state.
Your insulin doesn't spike. Your gut doesn't have to work. You just get pure, direct physiological recovery.
It is a prime example of biological optimization.
Yeah.
You are using specialized knowledge to bypass the inherent inefficiencies of human digestion, delivering exactly what the body needs, precisely when it needs it.
Perfectly said.
So we have mapped out the toxic ingredients hiding in the legal fine print, and we've explored these advanced mechanisms for cellular repair. But how do we actually tie this all together?
Application is everything.
Right. The knowledge is fascinating, but how do you apply this dense biochemical data tomorrow afternoon when you are standing under the fluorescent lights of aisle 4 trying to buy groceries after a long day at work?
That is the ultimate test of any health protocol. Information without practical application is just trivia.
Totally.
The guide provides a brilliant stress-relieving strategy for this exact scenario. You only have to do the hard work once.
Yes. The ultimate grocery hack. You do not need to become a paranoid, anxious label reader on every single trip to the store for the rest of your life.
No, you just take the time, just one single weekend, to audit your standard grocery run. Go to the store with your glasses on. Read the tiny print.
Do the detective work.
Exactly. Find the specific vetted brand of nitrate-free bacon. Locate the snacks that use real cane sugar instead of high fructose corn syrup. Identify the crackers that are entirely free of partially hydrogenated oils.
You do the detective work once, you find the safe harbors, and then you put your shopping on autopilot. You exclusively buy those safe, vetted brands over and over again. You just keep them stocked.
It completely removes decision fatigue. You protect your gut microbiome, your brain chemistry, and your metabolism without having to obsess over every single package forever.
Being deeply well-informed shouldn't mean being constantly overwhelmed. You don't have to sacrifice flavor, and you don't have to quadruple your food budget.
Not at all.
A little bit of upfront vigilance pays massive, compounding dividends for your longevity and your daily energy levels.
It is simply about taking back control of your own biology from an industry that relies entirely on your complacency.
Which brings us right back to where we started today. We talked about reading these labels like a legal contract. We talked about a manufacturer being legally permitted to round down dangerous, metabolically destructive trans fats to zero, simply because they artificially shrunk the serving size to fit perfectly through a regulatory loophole.
Yeah, that loophole is just wild.
And it leaves me with this thought for you to consider. If an ingredient that actively destroys your cellular membranes can be legally categorized as non-existent based on a paperwork technicality, what other microscopic toxins are accumulating in your body daily, completely undetected, just because the legal fine print says they aren't really there?
It really makes you wonder.
Keep asking questions.
Yeah.
Keep reading the fine print. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.